Alright, I have brought this project along as far as makes sense before some decision making from you guys, or at least some preferences and some guidance going forward. So this was the basement, and the floor joists 2x10s at 16 inches on center. I'm not sure exactly how they're laid out. And as far as the basement went, I just wanted to get the structural parts. These I noticed, so I put them in there. These mechanical parts. I'm not exactly sure where this electrical panel is, whether it's on this wall or the right hand wall, but I'll adjust it if you let me know. Also, this 4-inch cast iron drain waste and vent vertical from the upper floors. Notice that as we page up through here, there's the joist. And on the first floor, it apparently, according to what I have, perhaps comes up through this wall here. And I don't think there's any other drops from up there but this one. If you wanted to take a photograph or take a look at the floor underneath this, that might be enlightening. I didn't think of it when I was out there, but that maybe there is another vertical that comes down through one of these walls. But as we go up to the second floor then, and this is the most accurate interpretation I do have of the second floor at this point. And it did make sense that these dormers were centered on the roof. If you look at it from an overview, these dormers have to be centered because they're so close here. And so everything's pretty close that way. But here's where that same 4-inch vertical comes up. Presumably if it rises straight up from the basement, it comes up here, back in the attic space. But that is that. And the first floor, these joists, if they are all 12 inches on center, I use 2x8 for my sizing, so that's 1.5 inches by 2 1/4. But if they are, this is approximately how they, and it does seem to make sense, this 12 inches on center, the way they pair this wall here when they're laid out accordingly. And from what I was able to ascertain from what I put together with the red is the first floor walls underneath here. Okay, so if we were to make a new plumbing drop, for example, it would have to be, in these closets, ideally. If we had to reframe these floors, we're into the office here. If we only had to reframe parts of this, we would be just into that first floor bath down there. But that much aside, this is the toilet on the second floor. Here, this red right here, and its drain pipe apparently comes over and turns and drops down there. It's a little clearer that way. And this is all occurs, this drop, this has to slope, all this drain has to slope at 1/4 inch per foot to meet code. And it can all do that because I've modeled it all, but it's a close call. So that's my best guess, is that is what is happening. I don't know if this is old cast iron here, if it's all these fittings all the way back to the toilet base, and maybe this toilet used to face that way, or maybe the toilet was against this wall. And I'm not exactly sure why this was built out like this with this 12-inch forward bump for that vent. I mean, I know why they did it. They put that vent in there, the vent stack in there, but why they couldn't do that conventionally, I'm not sure, but I presume it has something to do with this tub drain. And this tub drain, maybe there used to be a tub up here, just a tub, and it had 1.5 inch drain that was run through those joists. But a shower is going to require a 2-inch drain, and I think that's what happened. This shower required a 2-inch drain, and they were sketchy about drilling those through the joists, particularly if there was already holes through the joists at the needed location. And so they have put all of their plumbing up above the floor joists without repenetrating them. And I will say, I don't know how this floor is constructed, if it's from that era and original underneath. I can tell, it looked like from my photos, that it is built up higher than this wood floors around it. But if it's the old school where it's 2 or 3 inches of concrete that are recessed down into the joists, that is also a possibility that would complicate any contemplation of drilling new holes through those joists somewhere. and B, with regard to the floor framing itself, whether that needs replaced or how we're going to do that. But yes, so the plumbing is up above the floor all the way, and it just makes it just clears everything. You can see it here traveling through here, and here's that. I think this is the correct interpretation from the photo you sent over, is that vent stack making its way into the wall with the toilet flange here, and then its drain pipe going, the other direction. So going forward, in most of this film, if not all of it, perhaps all of it, who knows. But generally going forward, I have anticipated that this plumbing stays that way, that it remains above the floor, and that we don't drill new holes or anything like that. Although I did review, and if a person was going to replace if these floor joists were all in good shape, you can drill the needed 2.5-inch hole, but it's a close call, meeting all the code requirements in terms of where it is from the edge, etc. And I don't know what condition those joists are in currently. So for the moment, I have anticipated more or less using that plumbing, or using a similar system where we have this high, 7-inch mount into the shower. But if you did want that conventionally down in the floor, it is possible to do. I've reviewed that. Now, for the purposes of this film, these numbers down here will be referring to any kind of substantial alterations in floor plans, etc. This number down here, the date, and then usually some sort of a letter after it. But in terms of the existing floor plan, aside from perhaps on the off chance that this toilet can actually be moved back, and even that's not a big deal, I cannot see a lot that can be done with this space in terms of improvement. I mean, yes, we can add another sink over here under the same constraints as this one, but mainly, as you're well aware, this wall slopes down here. It's really not ideal for a sink or vanity, any sort of personal care that way. This is Walter. He's 6 foot, and his line of sight is coming in right around the crook of that wall. And now this person's very small, 4'10", and they could probably use this effectively, because the center of the mirror would be there if they were not going to get a lot taller than 4'10". But in terms of a decent double vanity on that wall, I didn't really see it happening, and hopefully I haven't gone in the wrong direction. As I said, hopefully I haven't gone too far in the wrong direction or was too ambitious. But given the scale of the house and the fact that you wanted to stay there or thought you would be staying there for 6 years or so, and you wanted a much more functional bathroom than this, I immediately started looking for other space or other square footage. This existing bath's footprint here is about 76 square feet, including everything. And the first thing I did, and this is the bedroom at the rear of the house here, and the first thing I did was, just change their closet around and got us some space up here for vanities against a wall with, high enough walls for appropriately installed mirrors, etc. And even this is not the best, and just ignore, I just have your existing vanities in there for the moment. I worked with that. But looking that way at that wall where we were able to put some vanities, I immediately shifted them over. This is an 80-inch line here, so I immediately shifted them over, and then I actually put a cabinet at the end of that wall going forward in the floor plan. And then this is kind of mirrors and sconces. This is the best way to light your face if you're going to have a double vanity this way. So this worked out pretty ideally that way, as far as that wall, putting them all on that wall. And so it was like that. And then I actually just put this corner in here, and then we have another cabinet here. This cabinet, as you saw, is not as tall. It's only, probably 5 foot tall. And two other things. a lot of the stuff that you'll see in here becomes irrelevant going forward as I discovered various limitations and things that would look better without it. So some of this stuff is irrelevant, but I continue to work with the plan until I make a kind of a major change. But the next thing I looked at was a possibility of sequestering this area up in here away from the double vanity down here with a wall across here, and I'm showing a pocket door in there. But that is a hard thing to accomplish. There is an 80-inch door just like these, and here's the 60-inch cabinet beside it, and it's possible for a person to run track the necessary framework and track and have this 80-inch door in here. It's just possible. But in horsing around with that, I took it from a 28-inch door, and this existing door I switched also to a pocket door, a 28-inch pocket door. And right now this closet that's down here, this door is actually a 6-foot door. This label is wrong. But I began to look at the passage through here, and for whatever reason, or one reason or another, I took that from 28 inches down to 24 inches, which is fine. I mean, I've lived with 24-inch door to my bathroom for a long time. And I pushed this all the way against this 18-inch deep cabinet here. And again, this is a really close call on getting pocket door hardware in there. And it really didn't matter, because as I continued to develop this plan, and this just shows some of the clearance, that toilet is the existing toilet where it exists. And next, since that passage seemed small in general, and I didn't like the interface with the casing and the difficulty it was going to be to put a pocket door there, I took it out and just have this as a drywall opening now. And then I show what is happening down here. Presumably a dresser is up here. These are 6-foot bypass doors. So when they're open, it's 3 foot at a time. You could have out-swinging doors if you wanted to. And this was the kind of little final adjustment on this particular plan, 1115A, with the sizes that we ended up with. And the next thing that I did then was switching to the 1115B, and this creates an opening between that front or that rear bedroom and the bath, but it eliminates the common opening from this upper hall, and I'm not too keen on that from a functional standpoint. And so I resorted, really is the best word, resorted to this to get the double vanity and maintain the door to the upper hall. We go back to A, we had the door from the hall as well, and the double vanity on a good flat wall, accomplishing our objectives from that standpoint. But this one here, I just don't know about not having it. I mean, there's only the 2 bedrooms, so it's just those 2 occupants using it, but their guests will have to go in that way to the restroom. Additionally, if you wanted to use that as an overflow bathroom for someone downstairs, you really couldn't do that effectively. So I resorted, as I said, to this because I worked with this for a while trying to get something that I thought was pretty decent, and in the end I think it's okay. So the rear bedroom's closet space became a couple feet shorter actually to accomplish this through here. This is a 28-inch door, which is standard for a bathroom. And in the end, this provides everything, and I was not sure, this is another thing, keep in mind that I don't exactly know what additional functional elements you wanted besides the shower, the toilet, and 2 vanities. And so some of this stuff is just, perspective, and you can fill in blanks where I'm showing stuff. But right now, for example, I'm showing 2 60-inch high cabinets that are about 21 inches wide, and then this wide knee drawer here, like a makeup table type of thing, or dressing table thing here, with a chair under. But, there's a number of things, but one of the main things I didn't particularly care about this is that whoever's using the vanity are always in the path. I mean, this is a wide path here. I don't show that, but it's about 42 inches from the edge of this counter to this counter if these are 21-inch deep vanities. So for that moment, or at that point, then it was really just a competition between A, with the vanities down on this flat wall, or C, with these vanities on either side. And this is the existing here. You can see hopefully what is happening. And this is the these are the walls. This is where the existing situation is now. So you can see in that bedroom down there, at least in this permutation, you could technically leave this wall where it is in that bedroom and have a wider closet here, and I'd probably show that at some point along the way. And I had been showing this down here with this offset in this wall, but then it moves back up. But as I recall, for another reason it came back down. But I moved back up, and this is, remember, this is all, I haven't done anything with this. This is the existing situation up in here as it exists. And finally, at long last, we return to this plumbing situation, and I'll try not to belabor it too much. But there is the drop there. This is the existing toilet, and there's the path to it. Getting the vanity drains to it is no problem at all. But right now, that toilet is not, I think it's just barely within code. So it is within code from this wall. I believe it's 15.5. I'd like to see that closer to 18, but code minimum is 15, and I think you just are in code there, and so we could just leave it as shown, just like that, if it's impossible to move it, or if it's prohibitively expensive to move it. But if we could, if it's just a case, if the floor framing, if the existing floor framing will allow us to move that over where we can get it 18 inches from that wall, that would be good. And this was a quick review I made, that you can cut new holes in the joists for that shower drain. That's a 2 3/8 diameter drain, and so you could cut 2.5 inches holes and get the slopes and still have all the clearances, top and bottom, etc. And this was just me sizing. The floor joist would be fine with it as well. But we can't know whether that is possible. We can't know also whether that toilet is slammed against a joist here or slammed against one there. So going back to what exists now, there it is, 15 5/8 is what you have now. If that is not possible to move, and I think I went forward with the assumption that it wasn't possible to move in this plan, I just shifted everything down this way and left that toilet right where it is and got our 1'6" clearance there, because we had more space up here to work with, and we had space down here, possibly to the chagrin of whoever gets this closet. And I showed that closet kind of a standard, should be 2 foot, is a standard inside, and you can see the casing here. There's still room to bring that closet to a greater depth. And finishing it out up here, assuming that toilet stays right where it is, and we do some other things behind it, and rather than just have that box, I finished it off like this. I finished this space off like this, and here are the dimensions that we ended up with. And when I'll show you some overhead views of this and some additional photographs, but these finishes are just random finishes that I picked that satisfied me well enough. The cabinetry, would envision that more like, almost like furniture, particularly these pieces here. Well, all of the cabinetry, and there's 1, 2, 3. In this plan, there's 6 different pieces. But what you do with the tile, and what you do with the how many shower heads, and what you have, whether or not there could be a bench across here, and you would still have plenty of enough, certainly for a single shower head at this end. Maybe there's a bench and a wall-mounted handheld here on a slide. But you can kind of specify or build out this shower if it stays in this location here. And the reason it's staying in that location right now is because, as I said from the start, I operated from the idea that it might be a real challenge to relocate that shower drain, and it exists right now. I don't like climbing up into the shower either, and I would prefer that there was an alternative solution, but without that floor being completely opened up, we can't really know. And when I build this end wall here, then this creates, the toilet is still in its well, no, the toilet is pushed back 6 inches here in the hopes that they could push it back 6 inches. But there's a cabinet over it, a 12-inch deep cabinet over it of pretty high height. And again, that cabinet can be, I'm just showing a basic cabinet, but that could be crafted to look like something pretty nice, mission style perhaps. One of the things though is that this door up here, I'm presuming that this remains untouched up here, and this one down here, there was an asymmetry between this drywalled opening here and this cased interior opening here, and it was just rather clunky and crowded back in there. And this is just that tall pocket door, I think, at the time. And so what I did is I went to a hinged door instead, still the same size, 24-inch, but it's hinged now, swinging. It can swing into this bathroom against this vanity or into that bedroom beyond. And I have probably made this a little bit smaller than an 80-inch door. I think I went to a 76-inch door. Remember, the one at the other end of the bathroom is only 71 inches high, albeit quite a bit wider. And here you see it's swinging down into that room, but it could swing against that vanity as well, like this. The thing about swinging against that vanity, though, is I don't know where you put a light switch for this person when they're coming in this way. So I think you almost have to have it out so they can access some sort of light switching, either on this right before they go in or just inside the door. This over here, I changed that to a swing door as well because there's no furniture going here, and that's how it's currently hinged now, albeit it's a little bit larger. It's 30, I think it's practically 36 inches, so it's 8 inches larger than the existing door. And swinging in wasn't really an option, and there's a pocket door, which that can be done, but it's, it's a pocket door. Granted, there's only these two people up here, these occupants up here, so maybe it's not too much of a pain in the neck, but they do have some pretty nice pocket door mechanisms now where you just give the door a pull and it will close the rest of the way on its own. So if a pocket door is opted for, perhaps that is something that is accounted for as well. These are these kind of final dimensions here. So your entry is 28 and the path through here is 28. And this is the toilet in its existing location in the event we are not able to move it. And this was a wider door, so that's the 28 there. And this is and as I said, this would be more furniture style. Maybe there are bracketing coming up or something nice up through here. But this is how I ended up with, for this particular plan, was having the same drywalled opening, losing a couple inches here, so we have that same drywalled opening that happens at this end down here. And I did look very, very briefly at just dropping that wall out of there, but I decided against that for obvious reasons, at least to me. But here is a turnaround now of an overhead view of this, and again the finishes are just things that I picked out for now. The doors, all that is existing representation, but this is kind of like, I saw this as like almost an ammoniated oak type cabinetry. But all of this sort of finishes is all your choice, of course. But here is the turnaround of this particular plan. The next thing I explored was, in order to get these vanities on a single flat wall and hopefully have this door and this door both still entering the room, was the idea of putting a small dormer here, just a shed roof dormer. It would be a pretty simple construction to do that just for that deep. And because if we do that, then we have a little bit more possibilities, because now we can locate the vanities on that wall. Now, we really can't have any windows on this wall if we want mirrors and whatnot, because there's only about 16 or 18 inches of available wall space above the roof in that gap there. But this was just one of the ideas, was the vanities, and this is like 33, 33, and 18, and I'm showing a big linen closet out here in this upper hall, with the door to the bathroom here, and still the door from this bedroom here, and the existing one down here. And so that's how that particular one would look like from this end, with that just opening out into the, for linens and blankets and so forth, where it would look like that and that. And the second plan had a smaller standard old school closet door, 24-inch closet door here, and then this is a piece of cabinetry fronting into the bathroom here. And I'm not super crazy about either of them, except that I do like that it gets the vanity over there and out of the pathway. And really, because we did lose some storage in the bathroom by putting this out there, this closet over the toilet, particularly if the toilet doesn't move anywhere further back, if it stays where it is and our pathway through here is okay, that cabinet over the toilet can actually be 18 inches deep, and you would still have access to the toilet tank. So these are those clearances with this plan shown through here, with the big closet, linen closet in the hallway, and then with the little linen closet in the hallway, standard linen closet, not cabinetry, in the hallway. That last one was more traditional. This is just this, and then a toiletry cabinet here. It's only 18 inches wide to get a 2-foot door out here. If you make this wider, then this gets a little skinnier. You can divide that up if you end up liking that. Now, except for those couple photos out there, I didn't make an overhead film of that other plan, of the one with the big cabinet, but I did make an overhead film of this one, and it's right here. So that was a review of the possibilities, or some of the possibilities, if we captured space here, including with or without the actual dormer space. And I do show a skylight in that, though, since we don't have windows in it. But this little dormer here is such a simple thing. It'd almost be remiss not to do this. If we were going to work at this end, I think D3 or D2 is probably the pick of the litter. But here's a very quick brief look at that little tiny dormer from outside. But in the event you didn't want to get into this hall at all, and didn't want to do any of this down here, and just wanted to deal with more of what we were working with, as I said, I don't think we can do anything worthwhile without expanding somewhat. By the way, so the original was about 75 square feet, and this one is about 110. And if you built out here, built out to the outer edge here instead, this is about 140 square feet if you captured all of this and left everything in the rear bedroom alone, and just worked with this space and built a dormer here. Now, this is wide here, so it will be a shed dormer. It can't be a hip dormer like this unless it is limited to this width here. So your choices down here pretty much are limited to this 140 square feet plan, and this is all with the 93 or 94 inch high ceilings, finished ceilings. This though, unless you have some specific additional objectives beyond what I've covered so far, this is a lot of space, probably more than is needed for what we're trying to accomplish. And I horsed around this way, and again in these plans too, at this point I'm leaving the toilet and the shower where they are. The shower does get a little larger, but I'm leaving it where it is. And so if I do it this way, this is really the only decent place for these vanities, is up against this wall. It's the same as they were in the other wall. Well, it's about 3 inches smaller. This center one is 15 instead of 18. But it's pretty much the same as it was in the last plan in D or D2 or whatever that was. But this is a very large space. I mean, you could have a divan up here or something like this. I'm showing a double-ended tub just to demonstrate the size of the space. But the nice thing about this dormer here, unlike the one where we needed that wall for the vanities, or that's what we wanted to use it for, we can actually have windows on the dormer wall here. That much said, because this construction is fairly easy, and particularly if we were going to reframe this floor or do whatever it took to make this shower, put this shower wherever we'd like to put it. And remember, the drain is over here somewhere, the actual is down to the bottom, but we also have closeting down here. So if this is all full height here, you could have this shower anywhere in this room. And these windows, this is not a finished product here. These windows are just kind of randomly wandering in there. But this is 8 feet. You could have 8 feet of vanity and cabinetry on this wall here, and perhaps the toilet is over here close to its drain. I'm sure that something could be figured out with that in terms of some reframing of the floor. So if you're interested in a larger space like this, then say so, and I will develop some more ambitious alternatives than that. And here is a quick look of this, what we call the large dormer, and it's substantially wider than this one, as you'll see in the film. But even as big as it is, you probably are not going to be able to see it from the street. This is even without any obstructions, and you can barely see it. And I don't know how it is back there, but I know there's a house right beside it, and it's probably going to be hard to see regardless. But otherwise, I thought there was too much for what we needed, and I went down to almost the same size dormer as the one opposite of it. So this way we can match the architecture a lot better. And this is how it sets up here, same way really, except remember your ceiling, you'll come in and your ceiling sloping down from here down. This cabinetry is if this is 36-inch high cabinet, there's about 18 or 20 inches of vertical wall behind it. So this could be a dressing table, this could be linen cabinets, etc. I'm showing this cabinet here because I assume that this toilet stays where it is, and I'm showing this as a full 18-inch deep. Comes out over the toilet tank some. And I like your clearance through here, certainly. And I like that we got the two vanities here. Now these vanities, that's the best side for them. But there's room for furniture, room for towel bars and other amenities in this bath, and I actually have relocated that skylight here because you have it. And here's a walkthrough of the inside and overview of the outside with the roof on and with the roof off of this model 1115F, which adds a dormer very similar to the one opposite. And even though I've already saved this, a copy of this file is 1115G, I'm not going to go there now until I hear back from you, but there's nothing that would stop you from still doing some of these renovations if you're willing to give up some of this upper hall, still doing some of these renovations down through here, perhaps in an effort to improve this closet. I haven't experimented with it, and I'm just going to cut the film short now with that in mind, that it would be possible to do this bit here in addition to anything that you might elect to do across here and through here, for that matter, because you could still have the entrance through here. I can easily see that, but you could have the entrance through here and combination of closets here if you like. But that is the end of that for now, and I will look forward to hearing your thoughts on what I've put together so far. But thanks very much, because it's been really